welcome. It's so nice to have you here. Tell me where you are, because
Uh,
I think your current situation probably belies the actual situation.
yeah, I was looking for a quiet place to do this, and I'm currently in our central kitchen, which is in a barn in the middle of the Alps in France. So we're not far from the ski resort of Morzine here.
So what would have been nice was to get a view out of the window, and instead we've got the basement.
You have, I'm afraid. Sorry.
That's for the sake of the YouTube channel, but for the podcast, it doesn't really matter. We can use our imaginations. So tell us a bit more about your location, because this is home and work for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We've been living here since 2010. And when I say we, it's me and my wife, Kat, and our three children. And yeah, we've lived here since for 13 years, and we've been running our business for 12 years. And our business is we run a chalet company based in Morzine, and so we offer cater chalets and self cater chalets. And because it's all in the same location that we're living, yet work and personal life is very much intertwined.
And tell me then, obviously, this is a podcast where we talk about all things sustainable. And that's from mindset right through to practical matters. Tell me what happened to you guys during COVID.
COVID was tough for many people in the tourism industry. Obviously, it had to stop for quite a few months, or even, I guess, years in the end. And it gave us a moment to pause and reflect on what we wanted to do. And we decided that it was it was something. Sustainability had been something that was very important to us previously, but we decided that in that moment of reflection that it was something that we really needed to double down on. And so AliKats, our chalet company AliKats, became uh, a company where we try to live our values right at the forefront. So we now look at everything through the sustainability lens. And it means that the way we recruit has changed, the types of chalets that we run changed, the way that we prepare and serve our food has changed, the way that we run our accounting systems has changed, and it's now trying to run a business that is as low impact as possible.
So we'll get into some of those details in a little bit, but I'm really interested as to why. I mean, for some people, particularly as you say, in the kind of entertainment, in the hospitality industries, it was actually COVID was more about survival, less of a chance to think, oh, great, now how can we make our business better? You know, what was the why there for both of you? It wasn't just you; it was your wife as well.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever I say we, I very much talk about it's in the context of me and Kat. Um, I think in over the course of 2018, 2019, we'd read some important books that shaped our thinking. I don't know if you know David Wallace Wells wrote an amazing book called Uninhabitable Earth, which painted a stark vision of the future, which kind of uh, opened our eyes to the need to change. Um, I think the idea that the moment of the reflection allowed us to think, what is it that we want to get out of this one wild and precious life, to quote Mary Oliver. What do we want to do with our one wild and precious life? And that was a question that we returned to again and again. And we didn't just want to, be there turning a profit and going through the motions of, doing all the things that were expected of us. We saw that we had an opportunity for business to be a force for good. And both, in terms of the way that the clients experience have their experience with us whilst on holiday, and also the people that come to us for jobs. And it was it's possible to touch a lot of people's lives with our business, and further the cause that we believe in really passionately.
So,
Okay.
how has that massive decision and that massive reshaping of your priorities within the business, how has that impacted the business?
Um, it's interesting, actually. I think the clients that come on holiday uh, are are still coming because we have nice chalets in a nice part of the world and with lots of fun activities to do on the doorstep. And so that part of it hasn't really changed yet. I think we're able to bring a sense of awareness and education to the people that book with us, but it's still largely the same. Where we've really noticed a change is with the people that we employ and the reasons that they want to work for us. So typically we recruit a lot of seasonal staff. We have about 5 or 6 people working year round for us, and then we have a team of this winter just gone was around 35 people. So we have a big seasonal influx of people, and it's quite a competitive marketplace looking for really good quality hospitality professionals who want to come and do a winter season in the Alps. And what we found actually is that we are able to get the pick of the crop because of our sustainability ethos. It's increasingly important for young people who are generally in between their typically between age 21 and 35, who are coming over to work a season in the Alps. That is a hugely important for who they choose to work for. So that's been huge. I guess the other thing that is important to note is that at the moment the environmental cost of doing business is not really factored into most prices, whether in any industry, and so we're trying to factor those in, and we do that by trying to calculate the carbon emissions that we generate, and also then offset them, and so that comes at a cost to us, and it's a voluntary cost, and we have to that gets reflected in the price as well.
And are you
And
transparent about
we
those
try and
costs?
yes, yeah, absolutely. We write we create each year we create a kind of report that shows the carbon emissions for our business. And interestingly, so what if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, is the old adage. And what we found as we started to calculate the emissions of the business is that the chalets that used fossil fuel boilers to heat them and to create hot water were around 60% of the emissions of our business. And we don't have a gas network out here in the mountains, but a lot of those chalets burn oil to heat them. And so what we did is, when we discovered this, we then did 2 things. One, we said we stopped renewing contracts on buildings that had these, where we had a pause in the contract. We decided to not renew them. And 2, as chalet owners who are just building chalets or have chalets available to us, they approach us and say, would you like to manage them? The first question we now ask is, how is it heated? What's the fuel source? And so we stopped taking on chalets that burn fossil fuels. And by doing that, we are able to massively reduce our carbon emissions. And we just now work with chalets that are heated with an air source heat pump or electricity.
And I'm guessing solar isn't a massive option where you are because of the snow. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who use solar here, but in terms of the energy requirements of a chalet in the winter in the Alps, solar doesn't get you far enough. It definitely helps with some of the background applications, but you need something more than that to be able to heat a chalet in the winter for sure.
Right. What took you first to the mountains? I mean, it's not something every one of us has done, taken their family and taken them off to the mountains to live and work.
Yeah. Well, we found that we were spending a lot of our time and money trying to get to places like this, and we thought, isn't there not a way of creating a life out here in the mountains so that we don't have to spend as much time traveling to get there? And so a combination of Kat's chefing skills and my consultancy background, which is what I was doing before AliKats, it kind of led quite naturally to us running a hospitality business in the Alps. And Morzine is about an hour and a half from Geneva airport or train station. So in terms of international travel, it's quite easy to get to. And it's also a year-round working town here in Morzine. We don't have the kind of seasonal, well, we don't have as much of the seasonal flux that other ski resorts have. So people are still living here, going to school, going to work in May and June, when in other ski resorts they're completely dead. And so that was a really attractive part of why we chose to live here.
And this kind of revolutionary phase now of your business, where sustainability comes first and for, is that unusual where you are? Is that unusual in the French Alps?
I really want to say no, it's not unusual. But I mean, there are definitely other businesses and individuals who are doing a lot, but it's not as common as I'd like it, or we would like it to be. So one of the things that we have done since the start of COVID is we created a charity in France. It's called an association, but it's equivalent to a British charity, which is called Montagne Verte, Green Mountain. And that is an association designed to create solutions to help further the environmental cause in our local area. Effectively, everyone in our community wanted to make a difference. Loads of people had lots of ideas, but not enough time to do anything about them. And you get frustrated at not being able to do something. And we had this idea: what if we all chip in and we all pay for a professional to do these ideas for us? And that's what we did. We organised a big community event. Everyone came to listen to our idea, and people started signing up, started donating. And within 3 months, we had recruited and hired a sustainability consultant to put together a roadmap for our local area. And we've got some amazing projects on the go at the moment. And so slowly, bit by bit, we are trying to change the local culture by furthering this cause, with not just with our business, but also with our suppliers, with our competitors, with concerned individuals, talking to, in France, the power is much more devolved than it is in the UK. And so the local mayor is someone who's quite influential. And so we're trying to build relationships with the local mayors to do things about transport and waste that we wouldn't be able to do just as a business. And that's really where the power of community comes in.
That's a phenomenal achievement in itself. Just that idea, let's chip together and get somebody in to help us all, is, the power of the community right there, isn't it?
Yeah. And we were particularly lucky in that the person we recruited, well, actually, the moment we did an advert on LinkedIn, and we had an amazing number of applications from all over the world. We had sustainability consultants in Indonesia, who were a guy who was wanting to move back to France. He applied, and we had a really difficult job choosing the right person. And in the end, we chose a guy who's amazing, a guy called Benoit, and he was working in Paris for Accenture, well-known management consultancy, who I actually used to work for as well. And he'd run their sustainability business in Paris and had done consulting with some of the best-known companies in France, like EDF. And he just moved to just down the road with his wife and was looking for a new opportunity. And he is now our sustainability director, and some of the ideas he comes up with and projects he launches are brilliant. So I'll tell you one. We're just about to launch a project where this summer we're going to be collecting. Right now in France, there's no organic or bio waste collection. It all just goes in the bin, and we always thought, well, where does this rubbish go? And so we decided to follow the trucks. And We found actually it goes
Literally
just
follow the
down.
trucks.
Yeah, I saw the name of the brand of the truck company, and I found out where it all went, and we. So it turns out, normally you think about landfill. Well, they don't do landfill here. They take it down the valley down to Lake Geneva. They burn it, and if it's not hot enough in the oven, they add petrol to the furnace to burn it hotter, which is it's crazy to think that that's what happens to our waste. And so we thought, well, how do we reduce that? And food is by far the biggest component by weight of your normal household waste. So we are this summer launching a scheme to have people on a bicycle riding around Morzine, collecting waste, food waste, so fruit and veg waste from the restaurants. We'll then bring it back to a central depot and we'll take it over to a methanizer in the next valley over. And we'll be able to actually launch, proper bio-waste collection and disposal. And hopefully that, if it works, this pilot, it will start to have a really big impact on, a part of our life here that actually is not great at the moment, in that we're just burning all our waste and it's just going into the atmosphere and adding into the greenhouse effect.
So many questions with that though. Firstly, sort of like my brain's going, wait, what? What about in the winter? How are they going to cycle around collecting compost in the winter? Basically, that's what we're talking about, isn't it, when we're talking about bio waste?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly compost. Yeah. The road clearing is very good here, the snow clearing. Generally, if it snows overnight, most roads have been cleared twice by 7 a.m. And we will have a bike that has got big, fat, grippy tyres.
Fat tyre, yeah.
Yeah, and it will be able to. It's electric as well, so the hills won't be too much of a problem. It's going to have a trailer on the back. And to start with, we're going to just be on a normal mechanical trailer, but we will eventually have an electric assisted trailer. And we will ask the cyclist to wrap up warm.
Yes. Well, that was because my second question was, how much compost can you fit on a bike? Which sounds like the beginning of a really bad joke.
You can get 60 litres in the back of one of these trailers. And then they're going to have to keep going back to the depot. So there'll be a few round trips, but we live in a place where there's lots of sporty people, and we're at the moment we're just in the process of recruiting, and we've got a couple of options. We're down to the final couple of candidates, so we think it'll be quite an attractive job for someone to.
It might be the new category in the Tour de France.
Yeah,
a whole
exactly.
new Tour de France.
We'll see if we can. Actually, it's coming through Morzine in July, so maybe we should pitch the idea to them when they come through.
Yeah. See if they'll do it with compost. I love the fact that the best of these conversations I find are when we start really getting down to the nitty gritty of human ingenuity. Like, here we have a problem. This isn't doing us any favors. What we're going to do about it, and just, as you say, individuals in the community coming up with ideas and making those happen is when this stuff gets really exciting, I think. And certainly on your website, you've got tons of information about the initiatives that tell us some of those. I mean, even down to thinking through, okay, because a ski chalet is not a ski chalet without a hot tub, but how on earth do you make that environmentally friendly?
Yeah. The hot tub is tricky for us. So all our chalets have hot tubs, and all of our guests want hot tubs. But we know that heating 1,500 litres of water to 37.5 degrees outdoors in the Alpine winter is not very environmentally friendly. It uses a lot of energy and it uses a lot of water because we have to change the water every week. Unfortunately, some guests are not as clean as they should be when they get in them. So we end up flushing a lot of water down. And given that we are in the process of having regular droughts here in France, that amount of water wastage is not great. So we've tried to introduce we have introduced a responsible hot tub policy where we allow guests to opt out of hot tubs during the winter in exchange for a discount. and they need to opt in the summer. Our thinking is in the summer it's pretty hot here anyway, and who would want to go in a hot tub when it's really hot? So we're trying to financially incentivize people to use them less. We just launched that last year. We're going to see how it goes, and then we'll get to the end of the year and we'll review our position. The other policy that we systems that we've put in place in the last 12 months was related to our food waste. So I was talking earlier about how we manage restaurants for food waste for restaurants for the town, but for AliKats, we have three systems that allow us to, or three parts of our approach that allow us to get to zero food waste. So we are now a business that's zero food waste. Firstly, we have a system called bokashi composting. I don't know. Have you heard of bokashi composting?
I don't. Let's talk about that. Tell me about it.
So normally with composting, you can have fruit, or you compost your fruit or your veg, but you'd never put meat, fish, cheese, butter, etc. in. And that's a big part of food waste, is all those things. And then, bread that's left over that's got butter on it, for example, can't go in the normal compost because it'll attract rats. What the bokashi system allows you to do is it basically anaerobically composts any food, and it uses it's called bran. It's like yeast. Basically, it accelerates the decomposition, and we have these big wheelie bins, like the wheelie bins you get outside your front door in the UK. And each time we put some food waste in, we sprinkle some bran on top of it, and then we clip the lid shut, and they then become full of meat, fish, not too much of each of those, but a nice mix. And we then let it sit there for about 6 weeks. And then after those 6 weeks, we then drain off the liquid at the bottom, and that is amazing fertilizer for the garden. And then we add the main contents to our compost. And at that point, the main decomposition has already occurred, and it doesn't attract rats and mice. So that deals with a big part of it. We then also have chickens, and chickens are brilliant at eating, rice and bread and that kind of thing. And then
they particularly love spaghetti, don't they? Leftover spaghetti. Oh, yeah. That's their favourite, I think.
I think they just think they're worms, and that's why they go for them.
So.
And then once that we've got that compost ready to use, we then put the compost into our permaculture garden, where we then try and grow veg and fruit from it, and it closes the loop. So we've been doing that for about 3 years now, and there's been some moments, when you're dealing with. So we've got roughly 100 a capacity. We're looking at about 150 covers a night. There's quite a lot of food waste that gets generated. It's no mean feat, but we've reduced our actual waste that goes into the bins by around 75% over the course of the last few years since we've been doing that system. So it's has a significant impact.
Huge impact. It's a lot of work, though.
It is, and it's messy work as well, getting involved in the compost. I was out there earlier today, and some of the things you have to do is pretty disgusting. And I'm quite keen to make sure that if I'm asking our team to do these things and manage the compost, that I should be prepared to get in there and get involved. And you get some pretty interesting smells.
But again, does that extra work mean extra cost for you guys?
I guess it does, in terms of the amount of time that we ask. Collecting all the compost from the chalets, bringing it back to HQ, sorting it, processing it. Yes, it does, but it's quite evenly dispersed across the team as a whole. So every person's job is only a couple of % increase to do that. It's not like we have, a whole extra person just doing compost. So we try and, I guess on paper, yes, there is an increased cost to it, but it's not painful.
Right. And you're saving in other areas, presumably, where you're cutting down on energy use and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Do you, exactly, yeah. I mean, skiing isn't, forgive me, but it's not known to be the most environmentally friendly sport. Thinking about taking over the whole side of a mountain, if not a mountain, putting the chairlifts, the snow plows, the snow makers in some occasions, there's so much huge environmental impact of the sport that we love, which is skiing. Do you think future wise, and let's not talk about the seasons yet, we'll talk about those in a minute, but future wise, can skiing as a whole, as an industry, be sustainable?
It's a very good question. And there's been actually quite a lot of media coverage on that question in France in the last 6 months to a year or so, especially this winter when we had quite a poor snow winter. People were starting to ask the questions about the sustainability of ski holidays. So I suppose there's two ways to answer that question. First is in terms of carbon emissions. 50 to 75% of the carbon emissions associated with a ski holiday actually come from transport getting to and from Morsey. Most people fly from a UK airport to Geneva or Chambéry, and then they take a minibus up into the Alps, and that's where the majority of the carbon emissions with a ski holiday come from. And so we're doing various things to try and incentivize train travel, and we're just about to launch some quite big initiatives, which we can talk about later. And then the second thing is what you were talking about with regards to the kind of biodiversity impact on the mountains. The fact that you're having to clear trees, and the fact that you've got snow cannons creating artificial snow, etc. Those are issues for sure. I think for the piece that have already been made and they exist and they've been there for a long time, I think that they are what they are. We are where we are. But I think in terms of creating new pistes and bringing in new infrastructure, I think resorts will have to ask themselves very carefully, not just if it's the right thing to do from an environmental perspective, but I also think they need to start looking through the lens of financial sustainability. 20 years ago, €100 million investment in a piece of new ski machinery, you can map out the payoff. Now, when you run those numbers through the lens of climate change, that payoff is much less certain. And I don't think that enough of the decision making around these investments is being looked at through the lens of climate change at the moment. And I think that needs to change for sure.
Interesting. So we are moving through then straight naturally into what we're all already seeing. And I don't know if you know, spent some time in Jackson Hole in Wyoming, lived there for a time. And we were certainly seeing shifting seasons. And, when I would speak to people who'd been there 20, 30 years, that was even more obvious. And I know that the Alps is experiencing a similar scenario. So the season seems to be getting later and later, right?
Yeah, this year for sure. I mean, December's snow was not great. And then the months of April and even May, we had this, quite a lot of snow coming. So that did seem to happen this year, yeah.
And do you see that? I mean, obviously, you've been there since, remind me when you went there, was it 2011, did you say?
Yeah, well, 2010, and we started our business in 2011, that's right.
So have you seen a change, and have you spoken to people who've been there longer that have seen a change?
Yeah, I mean, people do cite these anecdotal years of 1964, I think, when there was no snow at all for the whole season. And they point to those as reasons for, not being too worried. But I think the data is clear that snow coverage is reducing. You can see the glaciers melting. That's, it's completely evident in the when you look at the depth of the glaciers, but also the snow coverage, how often it snows and how long it stays around for, and all the data there says yes, the snow is reducing. On top of the anecdotal evidence that we talk about, I think the challenge is how much can we really make a difference in terms of our behaviours affecting future snowfall? It's hard to know, but I think the challenge is now around adaptation. Like I mentioned earlier, it is a year-round resort here. It's not just a ski resort, although that's what we've spoken about mostly today. But the months of June, July, August, September are busy summer months. People come here to swim in the lakes, to walk in the mountains, to go bike riding, to enjoy the amazing food that many places in France have, and the mountains is no different. And I think then spring and autumn are the other two parts of the year that are currently quite quiet here, and we're looking to identify ways that we can bring people to enjoy the mountains in those seasons. And so we've recently launched elevated outlook retreats, which are basically retreats where you're guided through the process of a four-day retreat with a professional lifestyle and personal development coach. And we pair that with foraged food, which is hyper local and seasonal food, yoga, and sometimes forest bathing as well, and hikes in the mountain. And these workshops, as our coach Caitlin calls them, is a chance for people to escape their kind of stresses and strains of daily life and in many cases burnout that they've been facing in their career, and come to the Alps to experience something that is completely different and have a chance to reflect, be in a place that is elevated, both mentally and physically, to experience the mountains in a different way. And for us, that adaptation part is absolutely key to how we manage the changing climate. We are trying to give people a reason to come here that's not based on snow.
And I think that's so much of why we do go to the mountains, why we're attracted to the mountains. As humans, one of the reasons we love mountains is because they create these different feelings in us, from awe right through to, that sense of wonder, that sense of elevation, somehow removal from everyday life, so, and skiing gives us all of that for sure, but it's actually being in the mountains that gives us the majority of it.
Yeah, I mean, skiing is obviously it's an amazing experience, but it's even better when it's you that powers yourself to the top of a mountain, whether it's on skis with ski touring, or it's running or walking or mountain biking, and the impact or the effect of getting yourself to the top of the mountain and enjoying that view and feeling that sensation from all that dopamine that you get rushing through your system is amazing. And that's where I think that's where our future lies, is to encourage that outdoor connection, but with a bit more kind of I suppose physical exertion along the way.
Makes sense. And you have children, am I right?
Yeah, so Albie is 6, Wolf is 9, and Ivy is 11.
And do they understand sustainability in the same way that we do? Do they comprehend what a turnaround you're making?
Probably not. Because it's just life for them, but they are involved, especially with stuff related to the garden. They're involved in sorting out the compost, helping with chickens, and they hear us talking about business challenges over the dinner table. I suspect if they spoke to other kids of parents who run their own similar businesses, they might realise that our conversations are a bit different to theirs. But I don't suppose that's the kind of thing that 9-year-olds talk about in the playground.
Is it something that I mean, I'm guessing the part of the reason you are attracted to the mountains and to taking, your family with you and Kat both already had quite a strong relationship with nature and the natural world.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's in fact, in terms of how we like to spend time as a family, being outdoors is is top of the list. Even if we're at home, we're in the garden. But we have some amazing walks near our house up into the mountains, and we're often out on bikes or skiing. And when we're doing those things, we always try and take a moment to pause and appreciate where we are, not just the activity we're doing. And that's absolutely a fundamental part of our family life for sure.
And it's a fundamental part of your why, why you guys decided to make these changes.
Yeah, exactly. It's about, for us, I think, enjoying spending time with our loved ones, whether it's family or friends. Building connections with people whilst outdoors in nature is pretty much why we do what we do.
Part of being human.
Yeah. I think something we've probably lost sight of in the last 30 to 50 years, kind of, for the duration of my lifetime. And it's important to redress that balance, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Al, thank you so much. I really look forward to seeing what happens with the whole community, the wider, the circles widening out, the ripples widening out of your influence and the changes that you're making. So keep in touch, and thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.